p.m., 7:33 Central Time, 8:33 in the East Coast, 7:33 Central Time, that former President Donald J. Trump will be the projected winner in the Iowa caucuses for the 2024 presidential election. Again, about 33 minutes after the doors closed in the Iowa caucuses, with very few actual results in, but based on the results that we do have and the entrance polling that we do have, NBC News now projects that Donald Trump will be, at the end of the night, the winner of the Iowa caucuses.
Well, no, I
Welcome to the National Newspaper Publishers Association's Let It Be Known. And there you see, here's the deal. It is really inconceivable when you think about it. It's not surprising, first and foremost. Yes, Trump won the Iowa caucus. It's not surprising at all. But here's my take. A good parent chastises, punishes his or her child when they are so egregiously misbehaved. Jaywalkers have gotten tickets. Murderers have gotten the death penalty. No one generally goes unpunished for breaking the law. Supposedly not in the United States. Not unless you, of course, are a certain social or financial status and the crime is pretty much white collar. You tend to get away with that if you're in that group, right? But that's not the case with Donald J. Trump. Trump is certainly the kid who has never been punished or chastised by a parent. He, as a grown-up, and certainly since his false election claim in 2020 and his egging on the deadly riot at the Capitol that led to 5 police officers, law enforcement officers being dead, twice impeached, 4 times indicted, 91 felony counts. He hasn't seen a scintilla of punishment. In fact, one could argue that he's been rewarded for his unprecedented bad behavior. Just one day before he is to again today sit for a civil trial on sexual assault, which last year he was found to have been responsible for, and a judge ordered him to pay $5 million in damages. This guy didn't just win the Iowa caucus. I mean, it was a bloodshed. He absolutely crushed it. Losing one-term presidents almost never mount subsequent successful primary challenges or campaigns. Much less pull off these type of landslides. Trump transformed the GOP in his populist, nationalistic, nihilistic image in 2016. He claimed 50% of the vote yesterday in the biggest win in caucus history. The biggest win in caucus history, putting him on course, of course, to be the Republican nominee. And of course, his speech, he says the big night is going to be in November when we, quote, take back our country. Now, I get texts. I keep telling folks over and over again, and this includes cousins of mine, that I report on this stuff. I see good morning to the chairman, Bobby Henry. I report on this stuff. I don't get otherwise involved in politics. Take back our country, however, means what? What does it mean? What does make America great again mean? Well, we always took it to mean that he was saying that he could make the country this, great beacon on the world stage again, right? No one believed that. Everyone always knew what it meant. Make America white again. Make it because the numbers so that it's getting darker and darker and darker, right? African American population is growing. Certainly the Latino population is booming. And by what 2042 or something, whatever number, whatever year, it's supposed to be white folks are supposed to be finally the minority, which and really if you really break it down, they're the minority now. If you count how many mixed people there are, because we all got some. They say we all got black folks say we all got Indian in us. We all got some mix in us, right? Slavery was something else, wasn't it? That slave master, and the poor wife of the slave master, right? He out there now. She can't stand the black woman. He supposedly can't stand, but he out there in the cabin getting his freak on, nasty, making black babies, and then selling them. But this is Donald Trump. This is make no mistake. The guy says on day one he's going to be a dictator. Day one. Day number one. This is the guy who called troops captured behind enemy lines, 5-star generals also, cowards because they were captured. A guy who never set foot or never even put his arm in a uniform. But again, this stuff goes back to what we talked about yesterday with Sonny Hostin, talking about this whole idea that Biden is running around the country talking about save democracy. Democracy died the moment in 2016 they elected Trump. It's no democracy. So really his message, when I think more about it, it should be more of save America from the return of the Confederates. That's what he was, not save democracy. I mean, come on. And here's the thing. they haven't. We keep talking about their messaging. When Biden ran in 2020 and he won, the message was simple. The message was good, right? Saving the soul of America. That resonated, particularly with the most important voting bloc there is, which is unquestionably African Americans. It was the best messaging since Obama said, yes, we can. It was simply the best message since then. The only couple of times that Democrats got messaging right. Now this message of, oh, this is Bidenomics. Who cares? This is a dumb slogan, Bidenomics. Even people in the White House struggle with that. But this saved democracy. Black people are like, are you kidding me? What am I saving here? So really, if he would pivot and go harder with save America from another Confederacy, maybe that would start to resonate. This is a system, this democracy of theirs, that have seen now a exponential rise, not just in racism in the country, but racism in the halls of Congress, led by their master. I mean, just think about it. This is a system that has an emphatic display that Black lives don't matter. This is a system that has an emphatic display that kids, children, babies don't matter. This is a system that says emphatically elderly, white, Black, Asian, doesn't matter, don't matter. They want to take the Affordable Care Act away. They want to take health care away from tens of millions of people. How do you overlook the fact that you got a guy openly saying he wants to take that away without any replacements? Just die. You got a guy who says he wants to take away Social Security. Y'all worked for that. In fact, I learned something recently that I'm sure many of you knew. I didn't know you paid tax on your Social Security checks. I did not know that. But you worked you paid into that all your life, all your working life. People work 40 years. They want to take that away, even though you paid. They don't want to give you your money back, but they want to take that away. This is Donald Trump. And don't make no mistake, those who wear in blackface like Ben Carson and Candace Owens and Jason Whitlock and Clarence Thomas, they're trying to solidify their place on the plantation. Without question, they want to be in the big house. They want to be able to serve the tea and coffee instead of being out picking cotton. This is why they behave the way they behave. They put on the blackface and do the dance, do the little jig. Trump wants to tell you that those arrested for January 6th, those in prison for January 6th, for the insurrection, for the sedition, for the treason, they are hostages. He wants to tell you that they are hostages. Just think about it when he gets in office. Having already banned just about every Black book or every book that has real American history, imagine what's going to happen when he gets in. Publishers, publishing houses, even look, we're the Black press. He might ban us. He might say, listen, no, can't. You can't say what a dictator can't do. No, that's racism. Is what they're saying now. The fact that fund down in Atlanta that was helping these Black women businesses when nobody else would, they stopped them because they claimed that to be racist. You're only helping Black women. What about white women? They said. Can I do whatever I want with my money? The funders were doing what they wanted with their money. But this is Donald Trump. And with the favorable Supreme Court, with those 91 felony charges against him, with the very favorable Supreme Court, especially with the Clarence Thomas, who will bend over in every sense of the word. Use your imagination for Trump. and say, I'm yours. Do whatever you will. I will do whatever you want. This guy has set himself up, and you got to hand it to him on that sense. Him and Mitch Freezing Man McConnell, Mr. Freeze, they've set it up that the Supreme Court would be the way it is, politicized, racist, and anti anything to do with what's right. And so this is a guy that says that, and he's merely talking about black folks for the most part. If if people are shoplifting, he's authorizing the police to shoot them down. Shoot them. Shoplifting is depends on how much the person took. It's a misdemeanor for the most part, but he wants them shot down because he believes that most people who shoplift are black. Just like that whole old stereotype that was never true that most people on welfare are black. And this is their front runner. This is a guy who a judge ordered or said that committed massive business fraud, and they are now deliberating that whether or not how much I should say, not whether or not he's going to pay a fine, but should the fine start at $250 million for massive? The judge said massive. He convicted him of massive business fraud. He said that he could shoot someone on the street on Fifth Avenue and get away with it. He said that he and other celebrities, but he's talking about himself, could grab a woman by her private parts. And guess what? He has so far in this age of Me Too, in this age of let's put away these guys, let's cancel these guys who are being accused of such behavior. He's gotten away with it. He's not felt any punishment whatsoever. To Donald Trump, there is no better parent than the United States of America because they've allowed him to get away with everything. And as the song says, ain't no stopping him now. And yet, Joe Biden wants to talk about saving democracy. Have fun with that. Have fun with that. That's your Iowa caucus winner by a landslide. So now we'll see what comes next. We'll see what comes next. I saw people who work at the White House tweeting about what Biden was doing, what the campaign was doing. I don't know what they were doing, but they was patting each other on the back for something. Michelle Madison is asking, I wonder how his money is doing. It doesn't matter. Every time he goes to courts, his cult gives him another few $1,000,000. Mike V says it makes you wonder in the age of Me Too how women can swallow their pride and vote for him after grabbing them by the private parts. You see, here's the thing. If he was not running for president, if he was anybody else, put it this, if he was anybody else, he would have, with 91 felony charges and all these other things going on, trial after trial after trial. If he was anyone else, if he didn't own, I'll make it that simple. No, I won't say if he was anyone else. If he didn't own the Supreme Court, there would have been a deal cut and he would have been out of the race. There would have been a deal cut and he would have been out of the race. There's no question about it. Good morning, John Nelson. There would have been a deal cut. But this is Donald Trump. And in order to save himself, he's got to run. But now it's more than just saving himself. It's more than just simply let me run to stay out of prison. It's let me run so that the white supremacist can run this country. And everyone's afraid of him in the Republican Party. And a lot of Democrats are afraid of him too. And that's just the bottom line. And it's true. The courts have the power to stop him, but they are also afraid. You remember how many Biden has now appointed over 250 federal judges now. He's caught up to Trump's appointments in federal judges. But they are all, most of them, not all, but most of them are afraid of Trump. And so you notice they punt because they know they're afraid of retribution. And speaking of retribution, this is where things have gone now with America. You're talking about the democracy. That thing died, it crashed and burned in 2016 when he beat Hillary Clinton. Right? Not that. Listen, again, I'm not saying I was for a candidate. I'm just telling you the facts. The fact that he beat her, which signified then that it crashed and burned, and January 6th was just a punctuation mark. But what else is going on? You heard about those swatting incidents that were really for a long time seemed to be just happening in Los Angeles. Well, the White House was swatted. This is where things are. We're going to talk about that this morning. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin has been released from the hospital. We'll talk about that this morning. How about this Mississippi, something's going on in Mississippi. Something really, really bad is going. Something always bad is going on in Mississippi. Yes, but this latest black woman, and her child is missing, and they are believed to have been either have joined or been abducted by this cult that targets black women, and is allegedly the mastermind of a convicted felon named Rashad White. We're going to talk about that this morning as well. Virginia election integrity. Get this now. See, Virginia election integrity officials have discovered a major miscount in the 2020 presidential election between Trump and Biden. And you may or may not be surprised about what they found, and more proof that Donald Trump and his folks are fraud. Also, this morning, a new documentary on one of the greatest vocalists in the history of music, Luther Vandross, is coming out. We're gonna talk about that this morning, and what we're not gonna go into too much because I'm not really into awards shows and stuff like that. Years ago, I remember like my family, we hang Aunt Pam's watching, I think, and Dr. Nicole is watching. We used to watch the Grammys and the American Music Awards and stuff like that. You know, we get excited about watching. I don't get excited anymore about what I don't really pay attention. But last night, history is made. It was Martin Luther King Day, of course, the 75th annual Emmy Awards, and Quinta Brunson, of course, and that one of the great shows you'll see. Abbott Elementary, she won. And the young lady, the beautiful black woman who I will never be able to pronounce her name, Ayo Ida Berry won, Trevor Noah won, and Niecy Nash won. They took home gold. And Quinta and Ayo made history being the only two black women to take home the awards in the comedy category in the same year. And of course, Quinta Brunson also is it Quinta or Quinta? She put her name in the record books as the second black actress to win in that category, and the first one in more than 40 years. You know who was the first black actress to win, and up until now, the only black actress to win? Wheezy. Isabel Sanford from the Jeffersons in 1981. And as for Ayo, she became the third black woman to win in her category Jack A. Harry. Remember Jack A. Harry? We don't hear about her too much anymore. Jack A. Harry and Cheryl Lee Ralph previously won in that category. So the Emmys happened last night, and I don't think y'all like, who cares, right? I know. Big sister Monique Daniels is like, who cares? So, but now to the White House and the disturbing escalation of swatting incidents. Even the White House fell victim to a false emergency call, adding to the growing threats faced by public officials. The incident unfolded yesterday when a fake 911 call claimed that the White House was awash in blaze and it was just burning down and a person was trapped inside. Emergency response units, including the DC Fire and Emergency Medical Services and the U.S. Secret Service personnel, rushed to the White House at 7 a.m. Fortunately, within minutes, authorities determined that it was a hoax. Biden and his family were away at Camp David, so no imminent problems there with the president and the first family. Of course, the second family, as it were, Vice President Kamala Harris and Dougie Doug was not on the grounds either. And so the White House was cleared. But so many of this, the judges in the Trump case, we talked about that the other day. Judge Ingron, is his name? Ingron? Oh, he was swatted on Long Island last week. And others, Judge Tanya Chutkan, who's overseeing Trump's case in D.C. with victims of a swatting call. And this is, it's really when people do this, it triggers an intense response from local police and SWAT teams. This is why they call it swatting. Someone ultimately is going to get killed because of this. There's no question about it. Especially in this trigger happy era that law enforcement, very trigger happy. We know that. The FBI said it's been monitoring swatting for nearly 2 decades. Now they said they've heightened their attention because of incidents involving prominent celebrities. See, I have a problem with that, but because it involves prominent celebrities, they're just humans. But I get that they're the ones who are mostly targeted by swatting incidents as well. Now it's become politicians, judges, prosecutors. And speaking of prosecutors, I'm not going to go into this really, but I'm waiting to hear the end result of this situation with Fonnie Willis. And I just out of sheer curiosity, just waiting to hear what is going to happen with that situation. Wanted to hear the truth behind that situation. The only thing she said so far, she's made mistakes, which is not a full-throated confession as to what she's being accused of. But the bottom line with that, I don't know what happened. I don't know if any of it is true. Apparently some of it must be true because she's saying she's made mistakes. But you know good and well, girl, if this is how I would talk to her if she was sitting here right now, you know good and well, girl, that they were going to basically do a colonoscopy on your life going after Trump, since you are going after Trump. If this is true, why do something as silly as, I understand your boyfriend is a really, really outstanding prosecutor, but you can't do this. You can't do this with this case. You hire him, allegedly pay him an infinite amount more than any other prosecutor in the office. which is itself is going to stir up some contention. And then y'all take these trips together, which there's nothing wrong with. That's your boyfriend. But the optics, and this is how the MAGA crew is playing it up. Oh, so you gave him $770,000, and it's a kickback because he's taking you on these yachts and these expensive trips. And now these are the same people, of course, who defend the indefensible. Clarence Thomas taking millions of dollars in kickbacks, and then doesn't recuse himself from the cases that the people that are giving him the money and ruling in their favor. But again, Clarence Thomas does not consider himself black, is not in at anybody's barbecue. He's one of them. So we can't go comparing. You knew going in what they were going to do. Yes, Power 96. He says the most investigated and disrespected person in the world is a black woman in a leadership position. White judges, lawyers, and politicians do it daily. 100%. 100%. However, she had to understand that everything had to be as squeaky clean as possible. You know what's going to happen? If this turns out to be what they are making it to be, this trial is not going to happen. I have doubts that they're going to happen anyway. But this cements it. It's not going to happen. They have handed Trump a major victory here. This is so egregious in that you knew this was going to come about. You knew they were going to dissect everything. There were other special prosecutors you could have hired. And you could still give this guy's your boyfriend's an accomplished lawyer. You could have given him another assignment, not this one. Goodness grief, girl. This is what I would say. Goodness grief, girl. Austin says we always think we can get away with what they get away with. We can't. We can't. It's like I said at the top, Trump has openly said if he sees you committing a misdemeanor, he wants the police to shoot you down. But he's committed massive fraud himself, according to a judge. Too much. Southbound 3000 says 3 words: conflict of interest. Yep. I saw Bobby write something earlier. He says, do we really understand what a Trump DeSantis government run looks like? All you have to do is, well, Bobby, you're down there in Florida, the West Side Gazette. You see what a government run by DeSantis is like. And you know that they're once the election is over with, there's not going to be any Trump versus DeSantis in anything. DeSantis will go along with he will become another Ted Cruz, another little Marco, and follow in lockstep with what the boss says. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin was released from the hospital yesterday after spending 2 weeks there to treat complications from surgery for prostate cancer. That, of course, the big hubbaloo, as they say, or however the other folks say it, over him keeping the secret from the Biden administration or senior Biden administration leaders and staff for a few weeks. He is expected to work from home as he recovers. The 70-year-old defense secretary was admitted to Walter Reed National Military Medical Center on December 22nd and underwent surgery to treat the cancer, which was detected earlier in the month during a routine screening. He had developed an infection about a week later, and then went back to the hospital on January the 1st, where he was admitted to intensive care. Doctor said he remained in the hospital because of the ongoing leg pain that resulted from the infection, and so that he could get physical therapy. So Lloyd Austin, the defense secretary, is still on the mend. And Power 96 says, "Get well soon. Lloyd, General Austin is a real one." And Timothy Williams said, "Yes, Lloyd Austin should have told the president." Turning our attention now to and David, I didn't see that comment by David Youngblood. He says that Fani Willis, she has destroyed her credibility. Yeah, well, it takes a lot to build that type of respect and credibility, but it only takes something this simple, this ridiculous, to tear it all down. So I can't argue with the fact that her credibility, at least in the minds of many, has been destroyed. And Southbound 3000 makes this point about General Austin, that he says, is it by chance that he's afraid that he'll need to step down? Could be. Could very well be. It's a very good point there. The fact is, the guy is battling cancer, and the other side still won't cut him any slack whatsoever, which is really, really absurd. It's absurd. I mean, yes, there's no question that, look, if I get sick, I gotta let Dr. Chavis or Claudette Perry know that I'm not gonna be at work. I gotta let them know. I gotta let Greer know. I mean, come on. So, yeah, it's inexcusable that he did not alert the White House. And Power 96 is pushing back a little bit. He says, "Afraid of what? You don't have a clue if you think General Austin is afraid." Well, I think what Southbound 3000 is conveying, that, look, it's not necessarily about being afraid of an individual. It's about not wanting to have to step down, and the climate that this guy is in, that American politics is in. And they have called, there's been calls from the MAGA crew to impeach him. So I get what both Power 96 and Southbound 3000 are saying here. Timothy Williams is saying about Fani's boyfriend. She says, so far, he has not made any mistakes. Is that correct? To our knowledge, no, he has not. But I don't know that that's really the point. It's, again, you just can't do this. You can't do this in a case like this. You can't do it. David says he is in the line of succession. He must let the president know. Talking about General Austin. See, that's a debate that can go on and on and on. And Timothy, I get what you're saying. If he's doing his job correctly, I get that. But she has opened the door to her credibility being called into question, not just by Donald Trump and his folks. Because you got to also consider the fact that this is something that when she tries him, if she gets a chance to try Trump, like any prosecutor, they want to make sure that there are absolutely no grounds for appeal if they get the guilty verdict that they are seeking. And so you're opening up grounds here for all sorts of nonsense, unnecessary nonsense. Because Trump's going to give you nonsense anyway, but you're opening the door for unnecessary nonsense. Now, turning our attention to Mississippi, finally, 6 people 2 of whom are from Mississippi, have not been seen since August after allegedly following a cult leader in Missouri. According to authorities, the group was last spotted at a Quality Inn hotel in Missouri on August the 13th, 2023. Horn Lake police have confirmed that Jeriel German and her infant son, Ashton Mitchell, are 2 of the individuals from Mississippi who went missing after following popular social media spirituality influencer. That's a lot. Popular social media spirituality influence. How can someone be a all right, let me stop there. But his name is Rashad Jamal White. Berkeley police have also reported that the following individuals are missing: 36-year-old Michaela Wickerson, her 3-year-old Malaya Wickerson. They're from St. Louis. 25-year-old Michaela, are we getting a theme here? Michaela Thompson of St. Louis. 30-year-old Naaman Williams of Washington, D.C. is also missing and believed to be under the influence of this cult. Investigators in Missouri were able to determine that the group had been following this guy White as a spiritual leader. He founded an online religious group called the University of Cosmic Intelligence and got a large following. Of course, he found himself in legal trouble in August after the 6 individuals came up missing. The police say the investigation revealed that these individuals had become part of a spiritual cult and they follow the teachings of a man named Rashad Jamal White. Rashad Jamal has tens of thousands of followers across multiple social media platforms, and the police say it should be noted that he was recently convicted of various crimes in the state of Georgia and had been serving a lengthy prison sentence. He was sentenced to 18 years in prison, followed by 22 years of probation for child molestation, child cruelty, and other charges. And this is a social media influencer, a spirituality influencer at that. Folks, we got to stop with this influencer stuff. We got to stop. Gotta stop. Power 96 going in on Mississippi. He says, what has 4 eyes and can't see? Mississippi. Mike V says, Ebony alert. Exactly. And Timothy Williams says, is it me or is every cult leader a sexual deviant? Well, apparently, and he's been convicted of being such. Yes. And it goes on, the law enforcement says several of his ardent followers have stood by him, telling law enforcement that he has done nothing wrong. In Berkeley, police say that some of his followers have totally alienated themselves from their families and communities, and they have insisted on living, quote, off the grid. Wow. It is really sad how Jim Jones, folks, Jim Jones. Sad how people can be, and people are so desperate today. They are very desperate. There's so many, not just these folks here. There's so many desperate people because of the conditions of this sick world we live in. And they're looking for some sort of answer. They're looking for some sort of safe haven, if you will. And they're falling not just for the old okey doke, but they're falling for just about anything that tickles their ears. They're desperate to belong, David Youngblood says. Absolutely. This is why your boy down in the South, who was that the mega church guy can say he needs a $75 million jet, and and his parishioners say, we're going to get it for you. And they give all their money. Too much. Because people are desperate. Oh boy. So speaking of desperate, and again, going back to as Barrington would call him, he called him Orange Jesus, Trump. And Power 96 says, I blame a lot of this nonsense on the internet. Everyone is rich, famous, and have no problems on social media. Absolutely. But in another blow, not that he cares and not that it matters to his cult, speaking of cults, to Trump's so-called stolen election. And I want you to know, too, if you don't know, when Trump posts on his Truth Social and he uses all caps and stuff like that, and he writes the word stolen, he spells it with 2 L's. Not because it's a mistake, but that's how he spells stolen. That's how he thinks stolen is spelled. But anyway, Republicans looking into the 2020 count, the election count in Virginia, found 4,000 votes were miscounted in Trump's favor and to Biden's detriment. Of course, Biden defeated Trump in an electoral landslide that's been reaffirmed over and over and over by state officials from Trump's own party, including Republican officials in Georgia. Now, of course, he's facing all these felonies as a result, but yet he insists that the election was stolen with 2 L's. But there were charges brought against the registrar there, Michelle White, claiming that, the election was stolen from Trump or whatever. Well, they were dropped as the county announced their findings. And in a statement, they said election results were improperly reported by the previous administration during the 2020 election. Our office reported this issue to the Virginia Department of Elections and voluntarily cooperated with the Attorney General's office. The reporting errors were presumably a consequence of the results tapes not being programmed to a format that was compatible with state reporting requirements. Attempts to correct this issue appear to have created the errors. And so as a result, Trump receives an extra 2,327 votes, and Biden lost 1,648 votes erroneously, we should say. So all this, again, this nonsense, that's all it is distraction after distraction after distraction. Wow. Anyway, turning our attention to something really fabulous. Luther Vandross did not win a Grammy until he died, which is really says more about the Grammys than it does about Luther Vandross. But for more than 4 decades, this man was recognized for having one of the greatest voices there is. He sold more than 40 million records worldwide. Imagine if Luther could like dance like Michael or Prince or something like that, and how much more popular he would have been. But he was a crooner. He wasn't, into all of that other stuff. And he was the best there was. 13 of Luther's albums went platinum. And of course, Black folks love some Luther or Luther. His commitment to music is now going to be celebrated in Luther, Never Too Much, the first full-length documentary to chronicle the life and career of the multi-talented Luther Vandross, who died in 2005 at the age of 54. He had a stroke, and he died following complications from that stroke, which happened in 2003, actually, the stroke, and he died in 2005. The film is directed by award-winning filmmaker Dawn Porter and is premiering as an official selection at this year's Sundance Film Festival next week on January the 21st. And what Porter did was she distilled 80 hours of performance clips, 150 hours of archival footage, and 2,200 stills into 101 minutes, in which she portrays Luther behind, uh, his hit songs like "Here and Now," "Power of Love," "Any Love," "Dance with My Father," "House is Not a Home." But she portrays him as a loving, determined, and humorous professional who was dedicated to his craft. If some might remember that Luther first made his national TV debut on Sesame Street in 1969. That's when the world first got their glimpse of Luther Vandross, 1969 on Sesame Street. He was born in the Bronx, and they called him a studio rat. He loved the studio. And he became a hired gun for folks like David Bowie and Bette Midler and Roberta Flack and Barbara Streisand and even Chic. And those sessions with those artists led to commercial jingles, which helped to fund his double platinum major label debut album, Never Too Much, in 1981. And then he became really a sought-after songwriter, producer, and vocal arranger who went on to produce for people like Aretha Franklin and Dionne Warwick. Luther Vandross, what an amazing talent. And you talk about gone too soon. Just another one gone way too soon. Whether it was Big Luther or Little Luther, this man had the voice. There's only a handful that have voices like that. I mean, you got to go to Whitney Houston in her prime. It's not many, not many. Mike V says black men dying before age 60 is a big concern. It is. It really is. But this guy, come on, if you have a tape of love songs, how many Luther Vandross songs are on there? Come on, you can't have a wedding without Luther Vandross being in the playlist. Come on. I mean, this guy, just amazing. You know who's not in the documentary? Is Patti LaBelle. And Patti LaBelle said some really interesting things in recent years about her friend Luther Vandross. And apparently Dawn Porter will discuss why Patti doesn't appear in the documentary. Patti, now Luther Vandross, of course, there was a lot of rumors about him being gay. And I remember his last concert, or one of his last concerts. I don't know if it's his very last, but it's in Las Vegas, where he proclaimed on stage that he certainly has nothing against homosexuals, but he's not gay. Oh, I said a tape of a tape of love songs. Yeah, I'm dating myself. See, Greer's getting on my case, y'all. I said a tape. All right, a playlist. How about that? A playlist, Apple playlist. But Patti outed him, or at least I guess that's what you say. She outed him, and several times since his death, and certainly in recent years, I should say. And when given interviews, and she even famously talked about how she would encourage him to come out the closet, and he wouldn't. And it could be that, and I don't know the story, but it could be that the estate of Luther Vandross is upset with her about that. Because again, this is a man who decided to tell the world that he was not gay. And Southbound 3000 though has a different spin on it. He says Patty not appearing is simply that he's saying that he says I don't think that they want the truth. I mean, what would be wrong with if he was indeed gay? What would be wrong with him with them showing that he was gay or saying that he was gay? That having Patty on talking about what she talked about. Uh, it's really silly if that's the reason. I don't know the reason. I'm just speculating that that might be one reason why Patty wasn't in the documentary. But it would be a silly reason. But I can't think of any other reason why you wouldn't want Patty LaBelle. They were very close. I remember one of my fondest, no, not one of my fondest, my most fondest, is that a word? Most fondest? My fondest memory of Luther Vandross. Um, I was at a celebration of Black music in Santa Monica. And this is, oh, I want to say about 1998, 1999. And he had all these great Black artists on the bill. And I had the privilege of having a backstage pass and hanging out with people like Johnny Gill and New Edition and Luther and I mean so many others, Dionne Warwick, Gladys Knight, Stuart Scott, the late Stuart Scott from ESPN was there as well. He was kind of narrating things and got to meet him. First and only time I got to meet him. And got to meet Luther backstage and got to talk to Luther backstage. And what was going on, they was filming this. What made it so great was they were filming this for television. And so all the acts would come on and they would have to retake their performance for television. They had to retake it. And so it was time for Luther to go on, and me and the person I was with, we was like, oh, let's go out in the audience to watch this. Because we, you know, it was like you want to feel that. You really, it's Luther. You want to feel it. And he was singing "House Is Not a Home." We had the playlist of what was going. So we get out there, and Luther, of course, does what Luther does. I mean, he brought the house down. And when he was done, I'd never seen this before, and haven't seen it since. The entire crowd started chanting, "Retake, retake, retake." They wanted him to shoot it again. They wanted him to sing it again. And the producers, they said, cut, print. We don't need a retake. Luther just laid it down. And I remember going backstage afterwards, and I mean, he was mobbed by the other celebrities. And I waited. And he and Dion was off after all of that, off on their own, having a conversation. And I was like, listen, I got to go over there now that 100 people are not over there surrounded him. And I interrupted him and Dion, and I said, I got to tell you, I had never seen anything like that before. And he was so gracious. And even asked me, the man without any talent when it comes to that, is there anything I could have done better? I was like, yeah, give me a private concert. Sure, that's that. The guy was phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. And I'm hoping that in the documentary that performance, I mean, I know he's given other performances of House Is Not a Home that really was just on point like that, but I'm hoping they use that performance. That performance was out of this world. And I had the privilege and the absolute delight of being there and meeting Luther Vandross for the one and only time. But folks, we're going to look for that on January the 21st. It's bad weather throughout the Northeast. Schools are closed in many locations. I know my kids' schools are closed. So we're going to find something to do in here. Today they're gonna be up to something. But we appreciate you all, and we hope to see you again tomorrow for another edition of Let It Be Known. Thanks for joining us. To live alone. Yeah.
when a promise there, reach out and find the key.
I'll be right there.
Oh, baby,
I'll be right